Good morning.
Hi.
Evening. Let's wait 1 more minute. Hoping Trask will join us. Okay. Good morning, everybody. So as Trask is not with us yet, let me kick this off. Please don't forget to write down your names and add things into agenda. I have 2 things to talk about. One of them is Java 16 is out yesterday. I have tried to run our test suite with Java 16. It failed miserably for a lot of reasons, and so here is my question that I wanted to discuss. So a lot of failures are due to those libraries that we instrument. They don't support Java 16 yet, or will never. And what's important in 16 is that they turned off by default access to JDK internal stuff. If you try to access some JDK in private variable, for example, via reflection, in 16 it's now forbidden by default. Before that it was still allowed. So and those libraries which use that fail. So from one point, we do have already support in our test infrastructure to say this instrumentation should be tested only on Java versions up until this. So we have a couple of constraints like that this library works only on Java 8 or only on 11 and not higher, for example. But if we use that for 16, that means that we don't test on 16 like half of our library, so significant portion of our integrations. And our current policy that we test on Java 8, Java 11, we test on Java 8 on latest LTS and on latest version if that's different from LTS. Which means that...
Yeah. I was going to ask, is there actual agent code that doesn't work on 16, or is it just in some libraries that don't support 16?
That I don't know yet. Okay. I haven't dig deep enough. So I just saw several failures which are clear due to libraries, and so I stepped back. So if we just limit instrumentations on our testing up to Java 15, that means that we actually should test both on 15 and 16. Because if we don't test on 16, like quarter of our instrumentations, that's bad, I assume. We still have to test with late-ish version. And that's strange as well. So any ideas?
Just to throw out an aspect of this is this problem only exists for 6 months until 17 is dropped, and then that's the new LTS. But we still have to deal with the broken libraries. Like they're still going to be broken in LTS too.
Yeah, so in half a year we'll have the same problem, or even bigger problem. Yes, with 17. Yeah.
Yep.
Correct. So we can't postpone this problem because in 16 there is still a single command line flag to turn those strict checks off. But that flag is going to be removed in 17. So we can postpone the problem for several months, but we still have to fix it somehow.
We're not using that flag, are we?
We don't.
Okay, good. Good.
So it seems like what we need to do is we need to disable, or I don't know if we have the mechanism. It sounded like maybe we do, to just say, test up to JDK version 15 for this set of libraries. Find all of those libraries. I mean, it's going to be a pain, but you just have to grind it out and get that done. And we don't, I mean, obviously the agent's not going to work with those libraries on Java 16, so there's no reason to test it, right? Like it's just, it won't work. Yeah. And the libraries themselves won't work on Java 16.
Yeah.
So there's no reason to be testing that. So it seems like if we get that test infrastructure in place to make sure we limit the JDKs that are actually supported by the libraries themselves.
But then there are two questions for me. First, should we still test on 15, which is like the last version that the majority or all of our current instrumentations work on? And the second question is, what if some library in 2 weeks or in a month start supporting 16? And we will not test that.
Yeah, these are excellent questions as well. I mean, 15 is not an LTS version, right? So we won't support running the agent on 15 once. I mean, it's now that 16 is out, is 15 basically completely unsupported? I don't remember exactly what the policies are.
Well, unless you buy vendor support, which I don't know, is there any vendor who is going to continue provide paid support for 15? They may.
Probably not, though.
Probably not, but well, if you have money. So yeah, mm, that problem indeed with 17, it becomes more interesting from one point of view. Yeah, if library doesn't work on that version, we shouldn't test it, because what's the point?
But to your point, those libraries, I mean, some of them are eventually going to support Java 17, and then we should support them. So how do we have a way to reinstate the tests for certain versions on certain JDKs?
Yeah.
I think it's as needed. Like, I think it's going to be as it comes up, as people want it, as people see it, as we're doing regular updates to our supported library instrumentation versions. Like, we kind of already have this problem, right? Like, anywhere that we're using that constraint for Java versions already, we have this problem.
True. And it becomes even more interesting, because that may mean eventually, for example, if we provide integration starting from version of library 2, and they start supporting 17 from version 4, which means that version 2 and 3 and 3.9 we should test on like 11 and 15, and starting from version 4 we should test on 16 as well, and that our current test infrastructure doesn't support at all. And what's even more, okay, yeah. So I don't have a solution. I don't expect that we come up with a solution right away, except that, yeah, let's just constrain and use both 15 and 16 in our test metrics. But if anybody has any good ideas how to handle that in the long term, I will be happy to hear.
So for
Good morning, Task.
Yes, sorry. My phone died last night, so my alarm didn't go off this morning. And happy daylight. Hopefully, everybody, the U.S. friends, are doing better with daylight savings this week than I am. I was gonna say for like, say for example, it's Spark, that's Spark Java, that doesn't run on Java 16. If there are like Java 16 Spark users, I assume that they would just use that flag for now. So, I mean, what?
Maybe.
So should we, like, if we use the flag for testing, as opposed to constraining, at least for now, is the concern that that flag might hide something that we're doing in the agent?
That's certainly a valid concern, that we may do for this integration something in agent that will be forbidden from 17 or without that flag, yes.
Okay, so safer to constrain those to Java 15 versus constrain those to use the flag?
It's certainly safer, yes.
What is the flag that we're talking about, and what is the directive that says what versions to test with?
The flag is -- illegal access.
Sorry, yeah, okay, that's the JVM flag, JVM art. Okay, yeah. And it's in Gradle somewhere that we specify what versions to test with.
No, you can run test and say I want to test that with version XX, and then Gradle will automatically fetch the provision that JDK version and run tests with that. I think it's documented in our docs somewhere. Yeah, and max Java version for tests is our flag to constrain the upper version.
Cool. That's what I was looking for. Thank you.
Where was I? Yeah, and one more use case is that we may use for example, that was I don't remember, Camel integration maybe, where tests use Spring Boot to set up an application to under the test, and the version of that, like testing helper library, doesn't support 16, but we can upgrade that version and it will work on 16. Should we do that? Probably yes. But so it's a small can of very interesting works.
Yeah, I think this is going to be the kind of the key piece potentially is if we can, if there's a way for us to keep testing, the old versions of the library on other Java versions, but latest.
Mm-hmm.
Do we need two now? Do we need a latest depth test 15 and a real latest depth test?
Yeah, probably not.
Well, not 15, right? Because we would basically drop 15, but maybe a latest depth
But-
test 11.
But that's my point. Do we want, so if some library that currently works for 15 and it stops working for 16, should we drop testing on 15 at all? And like 16 is not supported, 17 is not supported, so we test just on 8 and 11. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's okay.
So it's like yesterday we claimed support. Yes, this integration work on Java 15, and today starting from today it works only on 11.
Well, I mean, 15 doesn't exist anymore, so it's
Well,
either
it
say
exists.
16,
You just don't
16
get.
or bust.
Well, you can still use it. You just don't get supported from vendor, or you don't get security patches into it. So that's not exactly the same that it doesn't exist. So anyway, yes, so I don't have a perfect solution, and I even not sure what is my preferred solution. But I think that we soonish have to come up with something, and at least in half a year we have to have a good solution when 17 comes out.
Well, I think as soon as some of those libraries, because the libraries themselves are going to start getting pressure to release new versions that support Java 16. And once that happens, I think we'll probably want something like to be able to run latest depth tests against 16 for them.
Which brings another question. Should we already start testing on 17? ByteBuddy already supports 17. Should we already start testing that? Maybe not breaking, but well, still.
Yeah, we should, that's a great point. We should definitely test on 17 before it's released, as opposed to the other ones where we've been, just because that's such a big deal.
Yeah.
And there'll be a lot of users waiting for that. Yeah.
Okay, I certainly can set up 17 CI job, which will be read for foreseeable future. Should I just, for the time being, start constraining that Mac Java version 15 and add 16 into our CI? Is it
I think that
generally
sounds like a
considered?
solid. Yeah, that sounds
Okay.
like a solid.
And I will make an issue about latest dep test on 16 on separate Java version. Yeah. Okay. Thanks. That's it from me on this topic. If nobody wants to comment something, then I will go to the next one. And the next one is just FYI that the hotel spec / maintainers is going to start like OpenTelemetry initiative to essentially to answer the question, how do we get the whole internet contributing library instrumentations to OTEL and not us doing all the work? Which you can join the discussion on OpenTelemetry Slack in that channel, which is in notes. There is a link in that channel, a pinned link to Google Doc with initial proposal how we should proceed on that. The one very specific and very technical aspect of that, which interests me a lot, is how can end user get third-party bytecode instrumentation without us putting that instrumentation into our Java agent -o. We don't want every Java agent instrumentation necessarily to live in our one single repo, I think. So if we want for somebody to contribute Java agent instrumentations and for them to be able to support and maintain that in the future, we have to have some way to accept runtime, maybe preferably third-party instrumentations. So probably that initializer jar idea that we have will solve that, or one way to solve that. But that is one very clear way or clear signal that we have to start thinking very hard about external API for third-party implementations.
Right, right. So I was just looking up the issue that proposes the kind of the new name. So potentially OTel Java extensions, which could be also, we could allow that to be a directory and we could consume all the jar files in there. So that people could drop in, you know, those third-party Java agent instrumentations in addition to their.
Is there a chance that we can consume instrumentation from user class path? Because that way they can just drop that into the Gradle build or Maven POM, my runtime dependency on that third-party plugin for instrumentation, and be done with that. Deployment is much easier.
So if it's on the system class path, the problem is that most of these things, even Spring Boot, and certainly web apps, that's going to end up in a a nested class loader somewhere.
Yeah.
Although I guess if it's in the same class loader where they want to apply the instrumentation, which it would be presumably, maybe that helps us.
I think, safe assumption, yes.
So potentially we could do something tricky there. It's something to think about for sure. Because we could, we have access to it at that point. We can, it's tricky. We gotta, basically we wanna consume those, the resources, the class files, redirect those into the agent class loader, right, to match sort of the existing, because we need to be able to call it from there, kind of like almost copy and move the class bytes from the user's class loader over into the agent class loader.
That's one way to do it, probably. I mean, we can vice versa inject instrumentation API into that class loader. We can scope that into yet another parent class loader which has instrumentation API. I don't know. So
yeah, so I think the first constraint there is the byte buddy is in the agent class loader, and it needs to be able to call those matchers in the user class loader. So we need some kind of bridge. If we don't move the bytes, either need to move the bytes or bridge it somehow.
So I have another idea. Assuming that we have the auto Java agent extensions thing stable and working, couldn't we just point to that jar that user executes?
say again.
So if we have this auto Java agent extensions thing working, we could just point it to the application jar. So the agent class loader would collect all the service loader stuff, the SPIs that we use, and the rest would be loaded.
If it's like just a pure fat jar, then Spring Boot, doesn't Spring Boot jars put things into a nested folder in there?
Yeah, they have a separate class loader which loads from some meta-in flips and whatnot.
Although we could detect that for sure, and we could, yeah.
Anyway, that seems a bit easier than detecting which class loader has the agent stuff and somehow copying all the bytes from there.
Essentially what Mateusz proposes is that we can scan every class loader for our SPIs. But okay, we still want to load them where we want them. Yeah, so that's certainly one of the things to try out. So this whole, I mean, again, this whole idea of how to
Does this, sorry, just Mateusz, does this kind of capture what you were saying?
Mhm. Yep, I think so.
Cool. Sorry, Nikita, go ahead.
yeah, so I mean, as a first step, we just can say that there is this extensions option that you can use. That probably will be a good first step. Or second, because we need stable API anyway. But then we can think about those user class paths, because that certainly will be very, very convenient for end users. Well, again, if you live in my world where application changes are easier than Java, the deployment changes, trust quality is opposite.
So that there was that ties a little bit to, I mean, we're definitely, this idea of integrating or customer applications being able to configure the Java agent. Also, like we've gotten a couple of requests for that. I do think
Start.javaagent.io.
that.
I mean, that certainly isn't like a nice touch. You do know your application, then please configure your Java agent will generate that for you. I'm not sure that that ever become like a mainstream, but well, some people certainly love that. Yeah.
There we go.
Yep. That's right. And let's not forget about one more aspect of this OpenTelemetry world domination is that we do want that libraries instrument themselves with OpenTelemetry API. So that's certainly the ideal North Star. All these bytecode hacks is hopefully temporarily fallback.
Yes, we need some Pinky in the Brain background.
Yeah. So please join the channel, read the proposal if you are interested in that as well, and participate. I certainly plan to do so from Java agent side, but the more the merrier. That's all topic from me.
All right. Anybody else have anything they wanted to chat about today? All right. Well, let's get some time back. Great to see everybody.
See you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.